Thank you. It is 7 p.m. I will call to order the September 4th meeting of the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag. Thank you. Tasha, will you take roll first, please?
Counselor Melissa Cortez.
Present.
Counselor April Dyke. Absent. Counselor Samuel Parker. Absent. Counselor Caleb Shields.
Here.
Counselor Ellis Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Richard.
Here. Thank you. We'll start off tonight with the consent agenda. We have budget versus actuals and minutes from the August regular meeting and work session.
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We'll move on to citizen comments and questions. This is an opportunity to present items not on the regular agenda. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll look over the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office report. I don't see anyone with us this evening. Any questions or comments from the report? And I don't see anyone from DIG. Do we have anyone else in the audience with a comment or question this evening? All right. Yes. Okay, yes, it is at 5:30. It was not.
Oh, I turned the
The
deadbolt.
deadbolt, yeah.
Yeah, the
Something we
stopper
need to-
sometimes gets kicked down and then the wind will shut it closed.
So
And-
once we're in here, if if it gets closed after we're in here, we don't know, but the deadbolt thing is good.
Thompson.
Okay.
We need to be better at getting them on a regular schedule. I did just upload the last 3 months. So I uploaded June, July, and August. But like, that was this week, so. In the past, it's been that one. Lately, it's been the mics, right? When we have the mics turned on, it picks up the mics, and they are very directional, so that's. Okay.
I noted that before the meeting as well. That's why I tried to move it, so like.
Well, no, so We have the slides for the agenda part of the meeting, and then we invited Melissa from DLCD to come give training. And I hadn't gotten her slides yet when we put the agenda together. I will make sure that those get on the website as part of that. Yeah, her slides are, you know, about the comp plan in general and like how.
Right, how it works with the state.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Yep.
so part of that was the flood zone. So I know last time we talked about the community builders,
Mhm.
and they had made an appeal to FEMA to get the flood zone map changed
Mhm.
in that area. And you said you thought they had, but is there any notification that you folks get that says that they have approval on those changes?
At least when I last checked FEMA's website, they had acknowledged it. I don't know if they send us a formal acknowledgement or if they send it to community home builders. But community home builders had to get our sign off on submitting the letter of map acknowledgement, LOMA. And so we signed off, they submitted it, and then I don't know that we got a formal thing back from FEMA, but I can see on their website that they did acknowledge it.
And wouldn't you need that in order to put the map for the plan for this flood zone? Wouldn't you need that to change that map? Or is it not that technical of?
No, you're right. We do kind of need it, but when we go to their website, we can see the updated map that they have. So basically, whenever we compile all the maps for our comp plan update, we'll just make sure to go get
Okay,
updated information
that makes sense.
from each of those websites.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other citizen comments or questions? I don't see anyone online. So with that, we will move on to old business, of which there is none, and into new business. Tonight, we start off with OLCC liquor license application. And we have Sunset Valley Vineyards application. Any questions, comments, concerns, or anything staff needs or wants to add?
Is this just another winery selling in the Coelho tasting?
I believe that, was it last month?
Yeah, we had
So-
another one recently too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Two last month and then this one, yeah.
No questions.
If none, I would ask for a motion.
I move to approve the liquor license application for Sunset Valley Vineyards at 111 Fifth Street.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve liquor license application for Sunset Valley Vineyards at 111 Fifth Street. Any further discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We will move on to contract for mixing zone study. Nathan, I'll let you give the rundown on this if you have anything to add to the background.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily have anything to add. We've talked briefly about it before, but DEQ is in the process of updating the City of Amity's NPDES permit. That's the permit that allows us to discharge our wastewater effluent into the Salt Creek. As part of that, they're looking at new limits to what can be in our wastewater effluent when it goes to the creek. And one of those is ammonia. Ammonia is kind of a tricky one. In order to treat for it, we would have to substantially change or add to the process at our wastewater treatment plant. And so we want to be really sure before we, take any drastic measures that it is a concern in Salt Creek. The way that our engineers have proposed looking at that is a mixing zone study where they measure the creek in the area of the mixing zone. They'll, take flows, environmental data, whether or not there's wildlife, whether or not there's fish, all sorts of measures. They have to go through a bunch of items to gather all the data for DEQ. This will also set up a stream gauge at the Salt Creek Bridge that will measure the flow in Salt Creek. That'll be a temporary gauge. We'll have it there for approximately 6 months to a year, with the option, if we're interested as a city, to continue maintaining it year after year, if we want to collect that kind of long-term data. That's something we can evaluate at a later point. But this study will set up the stream gauge, gather data about the mixing zone area, and then put together a conceptual model for a new outfall configuration. So figure out what kind of outfall the city should have down there, and whether or not it would meet those ammonia limits, or get rid of the need for an ammonia limit. And so this is just the contract with Keller to carry that out.
Any questions or comments on the task order or scope of work?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly on the flow meter, being that it's temporary. I'm assuming that we're purchasing that and it would be up to us if we leave it in? Or is that the way I'm understanding that? Or if we have the option to buy it when the study is done? I'm kind of concerned about what that means, temporary.
Unfortunately, well, it's the equipment would be ours. They would be purchasing the equipment for us. What I mean by temporary is that it has to be calibrated every so often, and so the consultants have to come out and calibrate it. I asked, what it would cost to, continue getting those, periodic calibrations and continue running it. And I think the cost I heard was around $15,000 a year, for them to continue coming out monthly or whatever their frequency is. Like I said, we can look into options more. The equipment's going to be there unless we choose to take it out. And so maybe we, leave it down there and calibrate it less frequently, and just know that our data may not hold up under a close study, or I don't know. There's a few options there. I think it'll be helpful to look at that more once we've gotten the year's worth of data out of that stream gauge, so that we can see, okay, is this helpful? Would this be helpful to maintain long-term? Or is it just kind of that's cool, Salt Creek is a little lower this year than it was last year, or, I don't know. I'm still questioning. I have lots of questions for our engineers on, would this be helpful for you 5 years from now if we just kept the data going? And they were like, well, it would make the study a little easier, but maybe not easier enough.
It's measuring 6 months of the year, is that?
So their focus is going to be the 6 months when we're discharging into Salt Creek.
And we do that yearly, though.
November 1st through May 31st. And so for that 6-month period is when their focus of gathering data is, right? Because during the other 6 months, our engineer will still, be looking at the area, be, performing the study, but they may not be as concerned about some of the data pulled from that time period, just because we're not discharging during that time.
Is there a possibility with the new DEQ guidelines that we would have to monitor it year-round, just consistently?
The DEQ would not necessarily require us to monitor the stream gauge. They might appreciate if we do, but I don't think they would require that, especially if we're not trying to push for like a larger discharge window. There's always the chance, though, that they still have an ammonia limit. Our engineers are fairly confident that, with a few changes at our outfall, we may be good for another 20 years. That's kind of the hope, that we wouldn't have to change our process at the treatment plant to address ammonia for a 20-year time period. But
And then I did notice in the agreement that it's a one-time payment of a lump sum for this scope of work. I checked in with Nathan about the health of our sewer fund and what it looks like to make that. And as noted in here, it wasn't anticipated in this year's budget, so we would need to make that amendment. But the ending fund balance is looking to be upwards of 300,000 plus the 100,000 contingency, so it won't be detrimental to the fund as a whole if this is a purchase that needs to just happen.
Keller wasn't willing to do it on a billing basis.
I don't know, the agreement just said one time.
Yeah.
I think, so generally the way billing goes, sorry, I'm not seeing, where does it say one time? I do see that it's lump sum.
I guess that's how I interpreted lump
Yeah.
sum, that we were just paying it all out at once.
Lump sum just generally means that, like, we're not gonna, if they, like, for example, task one, project management, that we're not gonna quibble over how many hours they're spending doing project management. We're just gonna pay them the $9,000 for project management throughout the project, but they will bill it out over time.
Monthly invoices.
Yes, that's where you'll see the percentage, right? They'll estimate, okay, we're 60% of the way through the project, so we'll have billed you for 60% of the
Okay.
project management item.
Okay,
Yeah.
guess I just misunderstood.
It is worth noting, though, that approximately 147,000, 150,000, at least most of it will probably be this fiscal year. And so we are going to have to address that in the budget, right, of shifting something around to allow for that expense. But overall, it won't all.
It won't be a one-time payment of that.
Yes, we won't be paying them all of that in November.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the proposed Keller task order and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed Keller task order and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. I'm going to ask that the next two items of new business be switched and we address letter D, the contract with Community Home Builders for House Bill 4134 grant first and next. So I'll just go over the background here really quick. House Bill 4134 passed in the most recent legislative session, and it provided a grant to the city of Amity for the amount of $1,500,000 to be used for public infrastructure that supports the development of affordable housing. The specific project that was funded is for the city to make the following improvements to Oak Street at the end, and then it shows square feet of sidewalk, curb and gutter, storm pipe, manholes, crosswalk signage. What it comes down to is that in order to receive the grant from Business Oregon, the city must have a contract in place with the property developer that ensures the housing will be affordable and built within 5 years of the completion of the city's project. Community Home Builders has agreed to these requirements. Nathan noted earlier this evening, we don't have a signed contract yet. So if someone was going to choose to approve this motion, if you just wanted to say, once we have a signed contract from them, probably be helpful. Anything to add from staff?
No. They've seemed generally just fine with the requirements, so
Have they seen the contract in its entirety?
they have.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns from council?
What kind of liability does a city have if they don't meet their contract?
So it's spelled out, if they default, they have to pay everything back to the city. So in the
Okay.
next item, it will show if we default, we're required to pay back. But if Community Home Builders is at fault and does not meet the requirements as they've signed in this, they pay us back the entirety of the
Okay.
grant. And the following contract in the next agenda item really lays out what needs to be shown in this contract with community home builders. And I looked it over and it covers all the basis of what they need to agree to be in the public-private partnership with us.
What's the checks and balance of making sure the proportionate number of houses are affordable? Is it as they sell off, or?
I'm not sure. Because of the nature of community home builders program in itself, 100% of theirs will fall, my understanding is will fall within the state guidelines because House Bill 4134 was workforce housing, so it's really like middle housing. And because this is affordable housing, the vast majority, if not all of them, will be well below.
Yeah, they will certainly fit into the state's requirements. There is also an interesting one, though, that such housing will be made affordable for a period not less than 10 years. And so that question kind of came up of like, once community home builder sells the home, right, do we have to keep track of if they sell their home again to somebody else and they price it at 600,000, right? And essentially, they weren't too concerned about that because the percentage of dwelling units that has to remain affordable is less than 30, is 30%. And so they find it, one, hard to believe that more than 2/3 would sell off. But
A
also,
second time within 10 years.
but either way, that liability sits with them. Essentially, there'll be a covenant, right, like almost like an HOA, but like the CC&Rs in that area. And when we form those, we'll just need to be sure to include this affordability requirement. That way, you know, if they do sell it in the future, right, that they're limited to essentially what they can sell it back at or sell it at for at least 10 years.
And so my understanding is that it almost like is attached to the deed, so that will be flagged at every time. But from the city's perspective, the check and balance is that they're signing that they will take on that responsibility. So if anything were to happen where the state came back and said you didn't hold up your end of the deal, then that's their default. And we still have our improvements and they still have their house. But if we were to have to pay back, they would be required to do so first. Related question, so you've sent this to them, did you ask them to sign and return?
Did I ask them to sign what?
Sign and return this
Yes.
already? Okay, just because when I reached out to Business Oregon, I said that at this meeting, we would be able to sign
No.
and get it back to them, so since we can't do that tonight.
I'll clarify
just-
with Business
okay.
Oregon and let them know that it will be coming soon.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else to discuss?
I move to approve the proposed contract with Community Home Builders and authorize Mayor King to sign once we receive a signed contract from Community Home Builders.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed contract with Community Home Builders and authorize Mayor King to sign once we've received a signed contract from Community Home Builders. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We'll move on to item C, which is the contract with Business Oregon for House Bill 4134. So this is the contract that will bind us with Business Oregon. It shows what they will do be responsible for, as well as what we will do and be responsible for. Quite a bit of paperwork here. A lot of it looks familiar with any business Oregon contract. Just to note, this will be a one-time disbursement in full to the city. And then we will just have timelines that we need to adhere to, reporting that needs to be done as the project goes on. And then at closeout, that needs to be done 24 months after the date of disbursement, then that will start the timeline for community home builders' responsibilities. But in all, we will be done with everything that we've agreed to. Questions or comments on this? Anything to add from staff?
I don't think so. Not at this time.
Okay. So will I wait to sign until we have the first contract?
We certainly can. Let me find. There's somewhere in there that essentially says that the recipient either shall or already has a contract with community home builders, and I'm trying to remember if it. We certainly can wait until we have that in place. Oh, yes. So as part of the project obligations, section 6, item D, says recipient shall, and then item 10 is enter into one or more agreements with the property owner, with the agreements including the following requirements. So because it says shall, we technically could do the business Oregon contract ahead of time. And
Disbursement just wouldn't happen until they had received.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So we could do the motion as is.
Yes. That was my main concern, and then
Yep.
to figure if I would physically sign it after we approved. But yes, yes and yes, we can go forward.
I'd like to move to approve the proposed contract with Business Oregon and authorize Mayor King to sign the attached authorization and deposit forms.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed contract with Business Oregon and authorize Mayor King to sign the attached authorization and deposit forms. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We will move on to item E, updated fee schedule as resolution 24-12. So our current fee schedule was passed in 2020. Recently, a small conflict was discovered within the document. This resolution removes that conflict and clarifies the city's actual procedures. We have a rundown of that. I asked Nathan if anything, because within the packet had the whole fee schedule, and that was something that I wasn't familiar with or had seen before. But the resolution at hand only changes that footnote within to take that out to align with what the actual procedures have been. So nothing else about the fee schedule will change, although personally, I would like us to do a deep dive on that as well, as it might be outdated in a few places, but
Morbid curiosity, what is street vacation? What does that mean?
like when you clear it out, it's no longer a street. The property's passed over to something else, so it's not gonna be used as a street anymore. like if someone owned two properties at the end of a dead-end street and they wanted the street to just stop there because they're gonna build a house in the middle, you would have to vacate the street, so it would decommission. It's like a decommissioning.
Essentially giving up the right of way, yeah.
Okay.
We'll get a chance to do that in a few months. As part of our water line project at the reservoir, the property owners that granted us easements for the new property line requested that we vacate the easements for the old property line, allowing them to build in those areas, so.
Yeah, there was a few things reading through that I was like, this is interesting. Oh, we should probably talk about this, but
I was like, in my head, block party where you shut up down the street or something. I knew that couldn't be right, so.
yeah, but tonight it would be removing the footnote that says all costs beyond the initial deposit will be absorbed by the city. Those are actually billed to the applicant.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-12.
Second.
I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-12. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our next agenda item is request for periodic review. Nathan, I will let you give the background on this.
Yeah, so the city has been working with the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD. I apologize for the alphabet soup that happens anytime DLCD seems to be involved. Basically land use planning. So the Department of Land, or DLCD, the department, has a commission that is the Land Conservation and Development Commission, so the LCDC. And as part of the formal procedures to enter voluntary periodic review, the work that we've been doing on our comprehensive plan, they asked the city to essentially come to the LCDC meeting and make that formal request. And so they've asked the city of Amity to make that formal request as part of their September 27th meeting. And so they've invited us to essentially submit a letter and a staff report. The staff report is not yet done, but the letter from the city council, this is the draft that we've put together. Mayor King and I have worked on it, but if you have any strong edits or feelings, that you want to say something specific, please let us know. Otherwise, this is essentially the draft that we would like to submit.
Yeah, it's still open for any changes or input or anything that you would like to see added or subtracted.
As kind of a fun note, they have invited Mayor King and myself to present at the meeting, like in person. And so we'll get the chance to attend that meeting and really, talk about the city of Amity and how we hope that, an updated comprehensive plan can really help kind of guide our efforts forward as we.
A question that I didn't think about until just now is we're doing this work on our comprehensive plan through a grant through DLCD. Part of the formal process is to officially request the LCDC permission to do so. They could say no.
They could.
Do they not work in conjunction?
That was my question to Melissa as well.
Because DLCD said, yes, you have a need. We want to help you. We're going to give you this grant and we're going to walk you through it. And we've started that timeline months ago.
Yep.
So what would happen if they said no, we're not granting this request.
I honestly don't know entirely what would happen if they said no. Melissa doesn't even consider that an option. She, in her mind, right, there's, like it's essentially just a formality. It's a way for DLCD and the city to pat ourselves on our back and, right, and say, hooray, you know, we're doing good things, right? It's a way for the department to say, look at, you know, look at what we've done. Thank you, right? Or give us your blessing. But yeah, I have that same question of, does that mean the grant could be void? Does that mean, and I believe the answer is that they would still honor what we've done so far. I don't know that if there would be an issue going forward, but the LCDC saying no sounds like such a remote possibility that it's not even really on the table for DLCD. So
It's just interesting. I would like to know if that is that a governor appointed commission? Is it an elected commission? It's obviously a formal board of commissioners.
it is.
And so for a state agency to say it's a formality is kind of sitting here as a city council. I don't like that feeling, right? Like we have oversight committees and commissions for reasons, but in our case, I'm really glad to hear that it shouldn't be an issue and it doesn't really matter. It's not something that we should worry about.
And say, I think in this case, right, to hopefully make you feel
Yeah.
a little bit better, right? DLCD has extensive processes in place for awarding grants, right? And that have all been approved by LCDC. And so, right, everything, it's essentially just, you know, they've approved everything up to the selection of City of Amity specifically.
Yeah.
And so this is our
I
chance
do
to
understand
say,
that, and I'm
yeah.
sure they have a good working relationship. It just seems like they should align their timelines a little different if it's something we formally need to do. I see it as an honor. I'm looking forward to doing it. I think it will be a good opportunity for Amity to present our work and our like progress and plans ahead, but especially with the formalities and the fact that we're giving a formal request, it just,
That's a great question.
Was
We
a
can
little-
certainly ask DLCD while we're there. So,
It might be a checks and balance for whether DLCD is appropriating funds correctly to cities. And
that
not
just puts us in more of a vulnerable position if they aren't, but I don't think
Yeah.
that they are. Okay. Thank you for obliging me with that side conversation.
I have two really nitpicky edit
Yeah.
suggestions. You knew I
Yeah.
would. In this paragraph here, will enable us to engage in outreach and citizen engagement. I wonder if there's a different engage and engagement.
Oh.
Um,
Pursue outreach or facilitate outreach?
I like facilitate.
Yeah, I like facilitate too.
Pursue is too many Ps in
Yeah.
one.
And then in the last paragraph, it's a giant sentence, but the semicolon isn't correct.
So, a period? There,
Well, the
after
thing
comprehensive
before the
plan?
semicolon isn't actually a complete sentence. It's a whole bunch of introductory clauses.
So how do we fix it?
I don't know. Well, we could just change the semicolon to a comma and just have it be like a mega sentence. Or we could just, instead of saying by utilizing, and just say, we plan to utilize blah, 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 blah. And then we could, period, where the semicolon is.
This is way beyond my skills.
What about a colon instead of a semicolon?
Nope.
Because in my mind, all that mega sentence is leading up to that last line, the last clause, this request. You know, like, it doesn't stand alone. All those preceding things are supporting that last part of the sentence.
So we could.
Oh, no, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, you could even swap it, so you could put this request for a voluntary periodic review has been
Oh,
deemed
yeah.
a necessary and initial step by our Amity City Council.
In order to,
Yeah. Put that in the front.
Yeah.
As a standalone sentence, and then we plan to accomplish this by utilizing up-to-date data.
yeah.
Okay, tell me again what we want to see. This request would be the first sentence,
Mhm.
and then how do we change the giant sentence?
So we could start with this request, yada, yada, yada. And then we could even continue, like, that, it doesn't make that first part a complete sentence. So I think we just need to make one giant sentence. So this request for a voluntary periodic review has been deemed a necessary and initial step by our Amity City Council in order to utilize up-to-date technical information from all relevant state agencies, be considered and adherent to current state laws, and follow a mindfully organized path towards completion of an updated comprehensive plan.
One more time.
Yeah. I wrote it down too. So start with this request. And then initial step by our Amity City Council in order to utilize up-to-date technical information from all relevant state agencies, comma, be considerate and adherent to current state laws, regulations, and planning goals, and how about follow a mindfully organized path towards completion of an updated comprehensive plan. Period.
Okay. One other thing to run by you then. What if we start the sentence, still, this will be the second sentence though, by utilizing, and then stays the same all the way to planning goals, we will have a mindfully organized path. By utilizing up-to-date technical information, all relevant state agencies being considered and adherent to regulation planning goals, we will have
Creating a mindfully organized.
creating,
If you're using those tools.
we will create,
You could even say we will follow.
Yeah, can we follow a path?
we will be following.
Would not be following, just we
No.
will follow.
Yes. But, so the sentence, this request, I feel like that
Needs
is
to be
the
as your-
strong
yeah.
ending, yeah. So we could take out the entire giant sentence. And so it would be, the structure and support of voluntary periodical review will help guide our efforts thoroughly and effectively. This request for a voluntary periodic review has been deemed necessary and initial step in our Amity City Council. A necessary and initial step,
Does it need to say necessary and initials or just a necessary initial step?
yeah. What if we took out the mega sentence?
That's also a fix, yeah. And if they had questions, you could tell them that we're gonna follow a mindfully organized path.
Yeah, I can use that someplace else. Use all those things someplace else. Everyone happy with that?
I am.
Shorter and simpler is my vote.
Okay. So we're gonna take out the first part of that. Any other edits? So if there were to be a motion to approve the letter, we could just say, with corrections, and then Nathan, you have that noted, I have that noted. We'll make the changes, and then the other question at hand is, I can sign Mayor King on behalf of the Amity City Council, or we could each sign it, Amity City Council, and then each sign it.
I'm fine with you signing.
I'm fine with you signing it unless you feel like it's gonna carry more weight if it has more signatures on it. Although if you're as confident as you, as I know you feel,
No, it's still helpful to put weight behind it, though.
Yeah.
I think it would look nice
Yeah.
just to have all our signatures.
I would say the example I have is from a county which has 3 commissioners, and so it's a little easier to fit 3 signatures on there, so. But it looks good with the 3
Yeah.
signatures, so.
I think it'll be fine. And then with the timing of that, how, do they want it early for the agenda packet? Is this like an ASAP?
As soon as we can. I honestly, if it's just those changes, I can make them now, and then get it printed right after our meeting and have you sign it on the way out. So it was just to get rid of mega sentence and have this request.
Yep.
Is that in its own paragraph, or is it
I think so.
attached to the paragraph above it?
I think it's its own.
Its own, but then we could add, we respectfully ask your support.
And then engage was changed to facilitate. Okay. Yeah, I have those changes, so I can print out a copy
Okay.
right after the meeting.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the proposed letter with amendments?
And to authorize you to sign?
The council to sign.
Or the
Council to
council to
sign.
sign? Okay. I move to approve the proposed letter to the LCDC with the discussed edits and to authorize the council to sign the letter.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the proposed letter to LCDC with discussed edits and authorize the council to sign. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. Last item of new business is to accept a planning commissioner resignation. This is always unfortunate news, but I think we saw people have reasons. And so, as a formality, if we could officially approve the resignation or accept the resignation of Amanda Christensen from the Amity Planning Commission.
I have one question. Do we have a quorum? Is it like, we do? I know I ask this every time. 'Cause I
We
get
still have
confused on
3, yeah. Yes. Don't worry, staff asks the same question every time of like,
Because I never remember if it's 5 or 6.
It's 5, but they all have to be there. Like, if anyone is missing, they can't conduct business. So,
Approve Amanda Christensen's resignation from the Amity Planning Commission effective August 27th, 2024, and authorize administration to begin advertising to fill the position.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept Amanda Christensen's resignation from the Amity Planning Commission effective August 27th, 2024, and authorize administration to begin advertising to fill the position. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. We will move on to department reports, and we'll start off with our city administrator, Nathan Fark.
Yeah, August was a fun and busy month. It seems like it's flown by, and I don't really know what happened. A lot happened. The Amity Public Library had their summer reading program finale. That was a lot of fun. My wife and I got to come serve ice cream, so that was always a good time. My kids loved all the sprinkles. The SCA grant project was officially completed on Rice Lane and accepted by ODOT. They issued project acceptance, and we were able to, as a city, submit an SCA grant application for the next round. That project, the proposed project, is a reconstruction of Enos and Stanley Street as they currently are. And by that I mean like current width and current limits, just rebuilt
Better.
with new base and new paving.
Does that also do the sidewalks, or is it just the street?
Just street, yep. It doesn't widen the street, it doesn't change anything.
Just makes it drivable.
This is our best chance at limiting engineering and other costs and making it fit within about $300,000. Anytime you add, I know, anytime you add curb, anytime you add anything that will affect the stormwater, you're,
But it's a big step for that area.
it is.
Necessary step.
And hopefully it goes over well. Hopefully it's accepted. We should know, I think the normal time frame for awards is October, so. And then Goucher Street, with the excess funding, not excess funding, but extra leeway in the ARPA water lines contract, the plan is to repave as much of Goucher as possible with that, because they're going to be tearing it up significantly over the next month as they put a new water line in, and we're worried that even if they were to repave the small section where they damaged with the water lines, that the rest would be pretty crumbly, and it seemed like a good use of the remaining funding.
With that completed plans, do you know how much of the street they will be able to repave? Do you anticipate it would be the entire length of Goucher?
So basically, the city engineer didn't put a cost estimate on it at all, other than a rough ballpark when we were first talking about it. Essentially, it's going to go to the contractor, and they come back with a quote. Unfortunately, we really don't have time. Like, if for some reason they want to, play hardball or not get along, I don't anticipate this at all being a problem. But if they did, we wouldn't necessarily have time to go out for a bid to get a proper quote from another company.
So they're just gonna say for that amount, we can go to here, and that's what we're waiting for?
We're hoping to get their price, and if it's too high, then we'll come back and say, let's lower essentially the way they should give it to us in a price is per linear foot, or kind of give us a price per distance, per quantity. And we'll be able to say, okay, then do this much, because that's how much funding we have.
But no matter what, for the entire length of the street, where they replace the water line will be put back to at least its present condition.
Yes.
No
Yes.
one is going to have worse condition
No.
road in that area.
No.
But it might just be a 4-foot strip of improved
Yes.
roadway. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, the plan is to start towards the nursery end and pave as far south as we can. But honestly, you might see it go all the way. It's hard to tell at this point, but we shall find out very soon. So, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But the other thing, just reporting wise, the wastewater treatment plant, you might have heard that smells a little worse than normal. We have gotten a few notices about it, but basically the blower motors broke a little while ago, about a month, and we're working on getting them fixed, but things take time, especially when, parts may be hard to find, or getting the right technician out can be tricky. And so we're working on getting those fixed. When they're fixed, they'll go back to being the normal level of smelling, which is honestly not too bad usually. And then the other items to note, we had talked briefly, cybersecurity, you've likely seen a lot of emails over the last few days. I didn't know that they were going to start it over the weekend and go every day since then. But essentially there's some policies on computer usage to read through and acknowledge. And then there is a half-hour training. Complete that when you're able to. Don't stress about it, but whenever you can. We appreciate it. Basically, it's just going to help us all be better at avoiding attempts to steal credentials and impersonate any individuals, or get access to information that shouldn't be given out necessarily. And then the last item of reporting, so the psilocybin and marijuana tax measures are officially on the ballot. So they will be there in November.
Awesome. Anything else to add?
I have a question about Rice Lane. Is there any landscaping plan for those swales? I feel like they're going to become just mud pits.
They were seeded.
Okay.
So they were seeded with grass.
Okay.
We'd hope to have seen some sprouting by now, but
Okay.
Unfortunately, one of the risks that we had to take on as the city, in order to consider the project complete for the contractor side, and let them, finish it out.
I had to just say, like, thanks
was
for
to
planting the
say-
grass.
Yep. And if we kept the contract open, we could have held it to a certain standard of growth, but I felt that applying for another SCA grant was a higher priority. But the seed is there. The contractor even offered to bring more seed if for some reason it doesn't take, but hopefully, especially once we see some rain, I think it'll take off.
Great.
Also, this is something that I might do not as Mayor Rachel King, but as citizen Rachel King, is talk to Logan, who works for the school district, about his thoughts on planting wildflower seeds instead. Although I'm asking as a citizen, is there any council opposition to that happening along any of our roads? Okay. So I don't know how that'll go because
Yeah.
it's,
What do you mean by wildflower seeds?
so you can just get like native wildflowers and then they grow.
You don't have to mow.
You don't have to mow. Or you do like one mow at the end of season, so they come up in the spring, right? And then whenever they get to,
They look like weeds the rest of the summer.
yeah. But it's dry and so it's not mud.
But if we can get grass, I would lean more towards grass, just personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that at the Allison initially, and
Yeah.
it just looked terrible.
Good
It
to
did
know.
not look good.
Maybe I'll ask for a test square. See if he's willing to do that.
One man's opinion, that's just what it is. That's all it is.
But also, my understanding is that that maintenance will be taken on by the school district, right? Yeah, so it really is out of our hands, but seed is probably the way that they'll go. It's lowest maintenance.
I would only suggest if it was a verbal agreement to follow up with an email that just says, for our conversation, we appreciate you offering to reseed it if it doesn't take. So it's in writing.
Yeah.
Anything else for the city administrator? Okay, city recorder, do you have anything to add to the report?
Just movies next week, movie departments next week on Friday, art reviews next Wednesday, not 2 weeks. And our audit is next week.
Busy, busy.
Do you want me to do popcorn?
Yes, please, because I will not be at the.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other counselors that are able to be at Movie in the Park?
Oh,
Okay. And then I will come up a couple days before and
make sure it
check on
works.
equipment, make sure everything works, at least check with Nathan, make sure there's a plan. Getting
Hopefully-
everything down there?
Hopefully it cools down
Yes.
by next weekend.
Okay. Any questions for the city reporter? No. We have the Public Works report, library report, city engineering and billing report, city attorney planning billing report by the COG. Any questions or comments on those? Okay, we'll move on to business from the mayor and city councilors. Counselor Bojorquez, any comments for the good of the order?
No, I was just gonna remind everyone about the movie in the park and the barbecue, and then we have our town hall meeting. I wasn't sure if it was just 2 counselors or,
We can have up to 2 counselors. In my mind, we would decide at the work session, but if anyone
no, it's fine.
knows they can't make it or especially wants to
We
come.
won't be there,
Okay.
right?
I'm out of town
Okay,
for the work session and the town hall.
okay.
The 4 of us can duke it out at the work session.
Yeah, or if you especially want to be there, just reach out to Nathan and let him know, and we can do first come, first serve. I'll be there. I would love to see as many as we're able be there, but if there is kind of that constraint to keep it informal.
And then beginning of next month, we also have another cleanup day on the 5th
Is that before our council meeting?
after.
Okay. I guess the same thing. I was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
we would establish at that preceding
I
meeting
know we
who's
had
gonna
talked
be there.
about like organizing something with an early pickup for some people. I don't know how Public Works can manage that or if there's
don't know.
time.
That would be a question for Nathan,
Sorry,
maybe.
say that one more time.
We had briefly talked about there being like a trailer available or an early pickup for people who couldn't move things by themselves with maybe.
For the city cleanup day,
Mm-hmm. And it'll be here before we know it, so.
I think we've put in the flyer that goes out, like if you need help or want to volunteer to reach out, and there really hasn't been that many people on either side of it. I don't know about being proactive in that, if we know we have like abatement issues. To maybe, yeah,
I know in years past on Facebook, I've seen a few outliers who needed help but didn't reach out to the city.
so that might be something that we as counselors just kind of look at and say, hey, your best bet is to call City Hall. If we're gonna try to coordinate something like that. Hopefully the weather stays nice for that.
No rain before.
Anything else for the good of the order? Okay. Counselor Shields, anything for the good of the order?
Nothing to add.
Okay, Counselor Thompson?
We have a survey live on the internet. So you posted on the city Facebook.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for me to post it on the community one? Like to
Um,
share it to the
so
community one, or
I-
can you do that, or can I
I
do?
tried to share it
Okay.
and it wouldn't let me, but
Okay.
that it might have just been like a Facebook glitch. If you
Okay.
want to
I'll
try,
try it, okay,
and then if I try again, I'll check to make sure it's not there before
Okay.
I try again.
great.
But yeah.
Yeah,
give it a
anyway,
try.
if you see it, fill it out. Tell all your friends to fill it out. It's a tourism slogan for the city.
So the Amity Tourism Committee is asking for input on an official slogan to adopt. And then, so in the near future, the Tourism Committee should choose a slogan, and then that's something that they would bring to council for approval before anything was officially adopted. But we're hoping to get lots of community input.
That's all.
Okay. And then mayor's report and final comments. So I want to bring up for the next step in our Safe Routes to School Technical Assistance Planning Grant project, we'll have another project management team meeting, but on October 8th, we're gonna do a walk audit of the city. That is open to counselors, public, everyone, and the consultants from Alta, as well as the project management team, which is city staff, me, community members, representatives from the school. Will walk around town to like physically look at problem areas or how people move or what, just the natural flow of human traffic, if someone was biking, walking, scootering, and then to look for, sore spots or where projects would be good. So everyone's invited to that, but more information will come out beforehand. I also wanted to say for the record, just so everyone knows, sometimes I receive Facebook Messenger messages from people who are asking or saying things about the city. I look at those, I don't respond to those. There's a few that I've responded to that were like, seem like emergent situations, but I always ask that they email me the same message at my formal email. So I just want to put it out there so that we can all be on the same page, or if anyone watches this or here, if you Facebook Messenger me, I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to accept it. That's not the way to get an official reply, but so you guys probably shouldn't do that either, but we all have official emails. So if someone asks how to get a hold of you or me, please just ask that they go to the city website or give out the official city email. And then lastly, in the past year, the last legislative session, or maybe the one before that, we now have requirements for public meeting trainings and mandatory reporting trainings. I think I've brought up the mandatory reporting one before. The public meeting one is a little bit newer to my knowledge. But they're offering in-person trainings on that. I think it is the Oregon Ethics Commission, in-person or webinar. So I wanted to ask for both of those, if council has a preference in us scheduling a work session or a time that we all come and get in-person training, or if you would want that responsibility in your own time to try to, they're usually live webinars, so they'll put out specific times and dates. Do you all have a preference?
I prefer in person, but I just don't know about the reality of scheduling something.
So I do know for the public meeting training, they're looking out of not being available for in-person until December, at least, because everyone's realizing that they're supposed to have this done and preferring in-person. So if that is a preference, Nathan or I can reach out and just try to get something on the
It doesn't have to
calendar.
be, like, webinar is just fine.
Okay.
It's probably simpler. Excuse me.
I prefer in person.
Okay. Well, if there's no objection, then can we reach out and see if it could potentially align with a work session in like December, January, or February? Maybe for both of those to see if we could get in-person training? Okay. And that was the last thing I had. Do we have anything else for the good of the order this evening? Hearing none, I will ask for a final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:09.